Hi all, Salty here. Welcome to the Team Retold Q&A. We wanted to take this opportunity to answer some of your biggest questions about our project while we get ready to begin working on episode 2. Now, when I originally planned the Q&A, I wanted the entire cast to answer every question. However, a lot of the questions either didn't require two answers or were about the extended plans for Retold, which only I know. So, this video is going to be divided into two sections. One where the entire team answers questions that apply to everyone, and one where only I answer questions that are about the lore and overall structure of Retold. So, without further ado, let's get started. Betty is still going to be the villain. I don't want to talk too much about spoilers for Retold, but I'm going to say straight up Betty is still going to be the villain. The way that she is a villain is definitely a bit different, and again, you'll see that in later episodes, but she is still going to be the primary antagonist of our story. I'm gonna say yes and no. Kara and their influence is still going to be felt, and I think they will say that they're gonna be seen at some point. Are they gonna end up becoming the protagonist again, like in the original GlitchTale? No. I'm not gonna say any more than that just to avoid spoilers, but a big thing I wanted to emphasize with Retold was not having a character come back after they've died, but having their influence carry on. I think that was really important to me in the writing process. And I think with characters like Kara and others, I'm hoping that's felt. Yes. 100% yes. He's in episode 2 actually. You're gonna see Akumu in episode 2. We just didn't have room for him in episode 1 with all the things we had to get in. But he is in episode 2. He's still a cute little blob guy, and I'm really excited for you to see him because I also love Akumu. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm going to answer this 100% honestly. I forgot that in season 1 it was made canon that Gaster is their father. So, I guess yes, it is still canon, but it's not important to our narrative. In what we've done so far, it is still very clearly important that Sans, Papyrus, and Gaster were always very close, but it is never explicitly said that Gaster was their father. So, yeah, I would say yes, it's canon, but I don't think you need to think about it as important in any way. I think similar to the Kara thing, yes, hate is going to be an element of our story. Is it going to be the main antagonist in the same sense that it was in GlitchTale Season 2, where it superseded Betty and, like, was the final showdown? No. I don't want to get too into it just because it's kind of cringe to, like, vent all my frustrations out, but when I found out that hate was gonna be the final, like, showdown of GlitchTale Season 2, I was beyond disappointed, honestly. I thought it, like, having this villain that was really interesting, kind of hyped up, and then she's not where the final confrontation is, I was really sad. So, Betty is going to be our villain from when the main plot begins to the end. She is the main antagonist. Hate, again, will have a role in the story, but it will not be number one. So, a prequel series? No. I have some plans for exploring the backstory elements of Copper, Agate, and Amber, because I do feel like it's important to our narrative. But a series, no. I've discussed this with the team before, but once Retold is done and the story that I want to tell is done, I'm done with the project. Like, there's not going to be like this big prequel thing that happened with the original Glitch Tale. I'm not interested. When my story's done, it's done. But yeah, as far as just exploring characters like Copper, Agate, and Amber, I do feel like that's important, and that is something we do plan to do with this story. So it is Earth. There aren't like government bodies like the ones we have. Like, there's no United States of America. There's no Canada. It's all of the same. Like, it's the same geographically, but there's no same world governments essentially. So where Retold takes place, though, Ebbet City is essentially where West Virginia would be in our world. This isn't insanely important to the lore. It's just more so something for fun. The main reasoning for this, the main inspiration was that there's a lot of cryptid culture in West Virginia. So I thought the idea of like, oh, well, what if the monsters really were, underground near West Virginia? That would make sense. So there's not a whole lot of reasoning behind that, other than I thought it was a cute little detail. But no, Ebbett City is kind of around where West Virginia was, and Ebbett City would be part of like the mountain range by West Virginia. Pub isn't his real name, it's just a nickname. It's not really important for us to mention. I've always personally imagined that his real name is Preston, but he goes by Pub just because it's a cute little pun, pub and grillbies, like a pub and grill. I think more evil just because I don't want her to like. Whereas in the original Glitch Tale, it really felt like she goes from being bad guy to good guy in the span of like 5 minutes. Whereas I really want there to be more progression to her, like where she stands as a character. I want actions and events to impact how she leans and how she acts. So I think, just based on where she is now, I feel like inherently speaking, she's gonna stay deeper in that realm of like being a bad guy for longer than the original Jessica. Yes, Frisk.exe, just because of how often it happened. For those unaware, Frisk.exe refers to this glitch that would happen all the time during production where a thing I would be working on would be completely blacked out and I just would not be able to work with it anymore. I'd have to delete everything on that frame I worked with. And because I would rant about it every time it happened, it kind of became a community in joke that there was this malicious entity messing with me, and we just kind of called it Frisk.exe or Betty.exe, depending on whatever character it happened to. I want to say at least 30. It was a lot, and I didn't complain about it every time. Sometimes I would just delete it and move on. I'd only complain about it really if it was like I was pretty far into a frame or it looked funny. I've got to say at least 30, but I'll tell you, it annoyed me every time. Just going from storyboarding to final premiere, I guess technically like a year and maybe 4 months. But for the first 4 months, we were working on other projects, me and Jay. So we really didn't dedicate all of our time to it. When I tell people, I usually tell people we worked on it for a year, but that's just the year that I was animating. I usually don't talk about those first 4 months because we kind of didn't, it was not our highest priority at the time. So I usually say a year, but it's more accurate to say like a year and 4 months. By far the longest part was scene two. Just because it's the longest scene, really. I mean, I think by itself 5 minutes. It's like half the episode is just in that office. And I know Jay took a couple weeks to shade it, but I had been animating it for I think 4 months. When Jay was shading it, Jay complained to me like, "Salty, if you ever give me a scene this long again, I'm gonna kill you." And I was like, "Jay, you've been working on this for 2 weeks. I had to stare at those hellish walls for 4 months. You don't get off." The hardest shot, honestly, I think to do was probably the shot of Jessica walking across the room or the shot where Muffet turns and waves, just because it was Muffet and she has a lot of details you have to animate, and it was really frustrating. Again, we're going to talk about this in the behind scenes video, but I originally approached Jay with the idea, and it was really just because we were hyperfixating on GlitchTale so much at the time, and we still are. And I still love GlitchTale and talking about like engaging with the GlitchTale fandom and seeing how everyone else interprets Betty and all these characters. So I really wanted to just do something really to honor the community because it's genuinely one of the greatest communities I've ever joined. It's so there's so many talented and kind people that it's kind of overwhelming at times. So it was really just because I really wanted to give back to the community and also just because I wanted to see if I could tell a big narrative like this. And I'm really happy that I've gotten this opportunity so far and I can't be anything but thankful every day that this community has given me that opportunity. If episode 2 is not 20 minutes long, I will be amazed because I mentioned this in the last video. The script for episode 1 was 11 pages long and it ended up being 14 minutes. And episode 2 is double its length and then some. I would personally not be shocked if we hit 25 minutes. I don't know if that's exactly going to be true, but I would not be surprised. I hope episodes don't get longer than 25 minutes, just that way we can have a reasonable output of episode every so often, but yeah, episodes are definitely getting longer. I don't know if they're going to get much longer, but they are getting longer. Hopefully. We've had some comments before, like, offering to do subtitles for us, and I haven't gotten back to those yet because I've been really busy, but I would not be opposed at all. And this isn't really in the question, but if anyone is planning on doing a dub of Retold or in future episodes and they want to upload it to their channel, I am personally okay with that if it's a dub in another language. Like, if you dub it in Spanish and you want to upload it to your channel, you completely 100% have my A-OK to do so. Yeah, I don't think I have a problem with that. I think I would just ask that, we're credited for GT Retold. And as long as it's not being used for anything, like, weird, I think that's fine. If it's just, like, innocent little, like, crossover stuff, I am A-OK with that. Episode 2 will begin production in February. We don't have a lot of specifics planned out. We're going to be planning it out through January as we, finish these last 2 videos to tie people over until then. As far as possible release date goes, I I don't know. Like, I really don't know. This is going to depend again on whether or not we can raise enough money for some of us to be able to do this full time. And if that is the case, then cool. But if not, it's going to be like farther away. I would hope within a year, but that's wishful thinking considering the last episode took a year and some. But now we also have like more we're a bit better with organizing now, so that might change. So for now, as far as release date for episode 2 it goes, I'm going to say I don't know.
My favorite part of the episode is when Jessica and Frisk are having their meeting. I really like the political tension that is between the two, specifically with Jessica and her potential ties to the HSS, and how humans attacking monsters for being different is just kind of reminiscent to what I think about with, like, X-Men, for example.
Probably had to be like probably pubs section, just like in general. I like the atmosphere there and just like the character dynamics. Very fun to watch.
My genuine part was when they got to the pub together. I think the interactions were mostly my favorite, with all them coming together.
My favorite part of the episode's probably the Sans interactions, or not Sans interactions, like just the scene with Grillbees, because I like the character development. I like just the background characters, honestly, just the ambiance of it all.
I think it has to be the scene where Betty gets introduced. Because I remember even when because at this point it was just me and Jay, but this was before we really had anyone else on the team. Me and Jay were writing the script for episode 1, and I remember having like that moment of like seeing Betty and just being like, that is exactly perfect. That is the exact way I want to introduce this character. And I love Betty Noir as a character so much, so just to get her in the episode, I guess, was just like all I wanted, and that's why I love that scene because it's where we get to meet Betty, and she's my favorite ever.
I think my favorite part of the episode was probably that's a good question. I really liked the whole Miss Gray section. I liked the little meeting. I think that was really fun to do, and I think that's like my favorite part of the start of GlitchTale was always the whole monsters integrating into society part. So I really enjoyed the expansion on that part of the story.
I'd say that my favorite part of the episode is where Betty gets mad at Sans and it's just all like, the union is literally only you. think that was like one of my favorite lines to do.
I really like the pub's whole setup with all the background characters and Sans popping up.
I think my favorite part would be the clear indicator that it's really going to be leaning into political intrigue and like the drama of that. My favorite show is a spy thriller, the Star Wars show Andor. So I like seeing aspects of that sort of thing everywhere else. And also the original GlitchTale did not focus as much as it really could have on the whole monsters versus human drama. So I really like just how it was like a solid half of the episode was just really exploring the friction between an immovable object and an unstoppable force. I thought it's a really fun start, and it's like really reinvigorates my love for the series.
Oh, the one where Azrael shows up. I don't know. I do like when they show up at Grillby's, I guess, and like Sans shows up because everyone likes Sans. I feel like there's a lot of like stuff that happens in it that's kind of just like kind of neat to see, like seeing Betty and like she's friends with the gang, Jessica being there like so early on. I don't know. That's like such a non-answer. I'm just like, I liked a lot of it. I thought a lot of it was cool and interesting. I guess I'll say I like the part where Azrael shows up, and I like when they go to Grillby's and they order milkshakes, and I think it's cute. I feel like I kind of touched on it, but I just think it's cool. I guess I'll always have a lot of heart for GlitchTale. So when there are projects that are like, Azrael's back, would you like to voice Azrael? I'm like, yes, let's do it. To be honest, though, when it came to voice acting for GlitchTale, I didn't really have much of a sense of like what my lines were going to be used for, because I'm sure a lot of people here have seen GlitchTale. It's like not fully voiced. So I would just get like, we need you to voice like this sort of sound, this sort of sound, this sort of sound. Sometimes I would get like audio clips of like, we want you to make the sound. So like it was, as far as like an acting experience goes, very different from Neo Madness and GlitchTale Retold. I would say Neo Madness and GlitchTale Retold also have like very different approaches in terms of how they handle recording sessions. So I would say the experience of voicing for GlitchTale, other than me just being like, this was a really cool project, I don't ever really feel like when I was doing Neo Madness, which I recorded a while back, that I'm really revisiting this character, because beyond doing a voice and like knowing a little bit of what was going on in GlitchTale, and so hearing they needed a sound, being like, maybe they need it for like something like this, it's like very hard to draw those parallels.
My computer just straight up rejected Adobe Animate multiple times, as well as the fact that it blue screened at some point. It just did not want this episode out partway.
So, I found out about GlitchTale Retold because I had a buddy who was a voice actor, and he had been auditioning on Casting Call Club, and I had never heard of it. So he was like, you should make an account. So I made an account, and I decided to audition, and that's pretty much it. I just heard about it from him, and I saw the trailer. I was like, this is pretty cool. So I decided to audition for it, and I was talking to them, and I didn't know who I was going to audition for, but they were like, well, I think you can probably try Frisk. I was like, you know what? Yeah, sure. So that's how I did it, and that's the awesome story.
How I was recruited. Well, there's a casting call club. I actually didn't come across it on my own. A friend of mine's actually sent me the casting call because they had auditioned for a role. Sadly, they didn't get in, but it's like really crazy to think that if they had never sent me that, I would not be here right now.
Earlier this year, probably in the summer, I don't remember the specifics, I was just feeling nostalgic, and I looked up, like, Betty, just pictures of Betty. But then I noticed that there were redesigns for her, and I thought, oh, that's a clever idea. And it was Azee's art that got me hooked on it immediately. Their Betty was very cool, so I followed their Tumblr, saw they were in a GlitchTale Retold community, and I thought, oh, even perfect. This is like such a micro niche community that I can really get into, because I don't function well in big Discords. And so I was in the Discord for a while, just enjoying the process. I had seen the trailer too at this point, and I was really really into the project when I saw the YouTube post talking about a casting call. And I thought that, like, I am an aspiring actor. I've acted in a lot of things in college and high school. And I thought I should really up my portfolio. And also, I think the funniest thing I could ever put on any acting like resume is I voiced Sans from Undertale.
I'm on CCC or Casting Call Club pretty often, or I guess I took a break from voiceover for like a year, not necessarily like a massive break, but I wasn't as active. And then last year I was like, I'm gonna go in hard. I feel like I haven't done voiceover for a while. I just happened to come across the casting call, and I was like, oh, that's funny. I was in the original GlitchTale, so I might as well audition. And wouldn't it be funny if I didn't get cast? Because honestly, it may be weird. I'm in a lot of projects that are, I guess, pretty popular online, but I have no conception of like people liking them, which is really strange. But I don't really interact with like the fandoms of projects I'm involved with at all. So I'm just like, yeah, no one's gonna know who I am. I'm just like somebody auditioning. I could get cast, I could not get cast, and then I got cast, and then it turns out everyone knew who I was, and I was like, oh, interesting, okay. It's a bit of a surprise to me, but also very cool.
Just casting call. I looked for Undertale stuff, and there it was, and I was like, okay, cool, I'll audition for it.
I think they were the same level of difficulty, because none of them were like especially long or especially, well, a lot of them were short, so they were all pretty easy, I think. And they weren't like emotionally difficult, because I was kind of just like, hey, I was training with Undyne. I'm gonna order a milkshake, and it sucks that those humans were racist.
It irks me so much to think about because the delivery of this specific line just like it cringes me out so bad. The part where it's like, if there's anyone I know who could do something, it's the incredible Mix Frisk Dreamer. I don't know why it was so hard for me to do. I have no idea. I really wish I could just go back and redo it, honestly, but what's done is done. It's fine.
Probably when Jessica yells enough, because I wanted to give it more of that fire, like the enough! But if I do that too aggressively, it leans more into Undyne rather than old lady.
Specifically, I have a plan. Yes, we recorded I have a plan the most out of any single line. I couldn't get the cadence right, I guess. So yes, that line in particular is definitely the one that was the most difficult.
The word unanimously gave me the biggest trouble out of anything I've probably ever done. I think most difficult challenge I've ever had to overtake in my entire life. On the bright side, I finally learned how to pronounce unanimously.
I actually don't know anything about the original series. When I was younger, I was into a lot of the like fan verses for Undertale, but I never got too into them. Like I knew about them, but I didn't get into them. I mainly liked the main story.
I think the original GlitchTale did have a really strong beginning with the first couple of episodes on the political aspect specifically, especially when Jessica and Asgore have their confliction with Alina being one of the fallen children that was used to break the barrier. I thought that was a really nice way to escalate the tensions that were already pretty tight between monsters and humans, and it was just really disappointing to see that essentially just become non-existent as the story progressed further. Jessica's redemption arc in particular to me was one of the biggest flaws to GlitchTale in my opinion, just simply because it just felt rushed. It didn't feel like it was a natural progression, because people, when they have like bigoted views or biases towards fresh groups of people, it just doesn't go away immediately overnight. It takes a while to break down those biases, and it takes learning, and not everybody is going to forgive you, and that's okay. That's something you have to accept. That's a core theme to Undertale, might I add, and that's something that isn't addressed in that aspect of GlitchTale. I mean, it's kind of is with Gaster and Azrael, but even then, Azrael's disdain towards Jessica just fades away after Gaster attacks her. I feel like the relationship between Gaster and Jessica was nice in that regard, but other than that, the rest of it just kind of fell apart when, like, Sans was revived specifically. that was just for fan service in my opinion, and I just really didn't like that. I just wish the characters would stay dead, because it would add more tension to the story in my opinion.
My thoughts on the original GlitchTale is that it is the prime example of having a good idea and executing it in the worst way possible, because it really felt like sometimes things were being thrown at the wall and then immediately forgotten about, and then eventually they'd fall back down onto the floor and they get picked up again. So it felt very messy, and there was a lot of things about it that just didn't make any sense. But it was also a big part of my childhood, and I think without that kind of stuff and Undertale AUs and everything, I would not have the amount of friends that I have today. So, of course, there's always the good in the bad.
I think it has a few plot holes. It's not the best story, but it has a lot of potential. And this series that we're making right now, we are bringing that potential to life. It had a lot of plot holes in the original. There was a lot of character flaws and all that, but we're hoping to make it better with this story.
I am not too caught up with GlitchTale. I was into it when I was younger, but honestly now I just all of that kind of just got lost with time for me.
I love the animation. The fight scenes were absolutely stunning. However, I think that there isn't as much character development, and in Retold, I think that outshines the former in a bit.
I had watched the original GlitchTale probably around when it was coming out. As a young Undertale fan who liked that sort of fight animation style, I was really into it. I followed it until it ended. Didn't really get into any of the origins or the other stuff from that. I just have really fond memories of watching this series that I basically grew up with, and it just made me like that rose-tinted glasses, I suppose, when I rediscovered GlitchTale through the Retold community, made me very excited to join it.
It has a lot of the foundational type stuff that AUs had back then. I don't know how to describe it. It was kind of charming to watch back then, but now looking at it, where I'm trying to find more serious stuff to watch or things like that, I wouldn't be able to enjoy it the same.
Obviously, I'm always gonna have some fondness for GlitchTale because that was a huge project that I was a part of, and I've there are a lot of other GlitchTale related projects that I've participated in just because I think there was a lot of stuff in GlitchTale that was pretty cool. I think the exploration between the relationships of humans and monsters being a bit more dived into in GlitchTale is really cool. I think this concept of the what is it, detriments of resetting, with the glitches is interesting. So it's cool to see people revisit that. I think there are some interesting ideas in GlitchTale, and I think it's cool to see projects like Retold explore things that in the original GlitchTale might not have been as fleshed out as they could have been, or taking a different approach on some of those, I guess, interesting concepts in a different way.
I think I still like GlitchTale. I mean, it was such a big part. It was such a huge inspiration for me growing up. I mean, it was really inspiring to just see something that big. And obviously now as an adult, I can see that it's not perfect, at least in the storytelling department. It's not perfect. It's got a lot of uneven parts in the story, but I mean, if you just watch GlitchTale and think about it as Undertale boss rush mode, it's really kind of still cool. It's really cool. No, the fight scenes are still great, and I still do love GlitchTale. Obviously, right? Or else why would we have started this? So yeah, I still love GlitchTale, but I also feel like I can't ignore that it is deeply flawed.
Thank you guys so much. This was huge for me. I have only been in a little smaller projects that only get a couple hundred views, so having this blow up the way it did to lead to an IMDb, that blew me and my family's minds. It's just, thank you guys so much for all the support. It's incredible.
Thank you so much for your support of this project. It means the world to me as a project rewriter myself, and it is a love letter to the community that many of you certainly are a part of, and I appreciate every single one of you. Your support means the world to us.
Ooh. Oh, I got you. Stay determined.
I just want to say thank you all for watching and supporting us. We have a lot more to show and to offer. If you continue wanting to watch the series and help support us, we have more we want to show you, and I hope you guys just stay along for the ride.
Well, I'm glad people like the episode, and I'm glad people like Betty Noir, and I'm excited for the future of the project. And to the people who watched it, thank you for just sticking around, because I know the production of the first episode took about a year, and just to see all these people just so dedicated to retelling something like this. It's really cool to me. So thank you all for your support and your love, and just for everything.
Come back for more, because I'll have more lines in the next episode, I think. I don't know, I haven't read the script yet.
It has been an amazing journey doing this whole, both just being in the REDD community, like the GlitchTale community, as well as working on Retold. And I hope that doing this project, as well as other projects like Neo Madness showing up, really makes people start thinking about their remakes and trying to make something out of it. Comics, games, animations, whatever the fuck they want to do. I hope they make something really good out of it.
I hope you like it. Thanks for listening. Comment below that you want to see Azrael get a solo episode, so that I can voice more Azrael. Don't actually do that though, because I'm sure that there's a plan in mind, and what Azrael does or doesn't do needs to fit into the larger narrative. But yeah, just keep on supporting and have a nice 2026.
Alright, you heard it here first, folks. Adoc's looking for the Better Call Saul style Azrael spinoff. I mean, I really already said, I think, everything I wanted to say in the thank you video, but I mean, now we're kind of closing in on 100K, so I mean, just thank you, really. I think that's all I can say. It really does mean the world to me to have this many people be interested on something that I had a hand in. I know that sounds really sappy, but I can't express, this has really been my dream since I was a kid, and I really do feel privileged that there are people who have granted my dream. So from the bottom of my heart, just thank you.